Welcome to Establishing Meaningful Relationships in the Virtual Setting. My name is Anna Kay, and I am a Behavior Support Specialist with Albuquerque Public Schools. This webinar today is part of the BSS team's webinar series that focuses on supporting teachers in virtual teaching and therefore students in their virtual learning. I'd like to ask you to take some time to reflect on these guiding questions. These questions are going to kind of serve as an anchor for the rest of our time together today. I'd like you to think about your own experience as a middle or high school student. When you think back on your most impactful learning experiences as a middle schooler or high schooler, what memories come up for you? When you think about your favorite, quote unquote, favorite middle school teacher or high school teacher, what memories come up for you there? And why was he or she your favorite teacher? You might want to take a minute to pause this video and spend some time reflecting independently on these questions, or even using this time as a discussion time, a collaborative discussion with some colleagues that you trust. I imagine that as you reflected back on your own learning experiences and your quote unquote favorite teacher, that many of you thought of a teacher that made you feel safe, maybe a teacher that prioritized you and your learning, maybe a teacher that challenged you in ways that they knew that you could be pushed and improve upon. So all of these indicators, right, these reasons why this teacher was your favorite, go back to a teacher that took the time to develop a strong relationship with you. They got to know you as a learner and also as an individual. We know that there's a great body of research telling us that a supportive relationship with a caring, attentive, and predictable adult is the defining protective factor for children who have experienced adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. We know that so many of our students had experienced ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences, prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. And now, in the face of this pandemic, many of those students are experiencing new levels of stress and trauma. Therefore, relationships are all the more important. Research also indicates that as teachers develop authentic relationships with students, the rate of disruptive and distracting behaviors actually decreases. Behavior improves, and so does academic engagement. And as we're seeing so many new and challenging behavioral concerns in the virtual classroom, this is becoming even more important. And taking the time to develop relationship with students, while it can be difficult logistically, is actually a really easy way to start to flip the behavior in our classroom in a positive direction. So just to make sure that we're clear in regards to what relationship looks like, especially in the academic setting. Relationships mean that we're establishing goodwill between teachers and students. We're building trust between the students and the teacher. And let's remember that this takes time, right? This doesn't necessarily happen on the first day of school or the first week of school. This is something we're constantly working at. And it also means we're creating predictable, productive, and supportive communication norms. So I'd like us to think about our virtual instruction time and kind of what it looks like right now. And then considering how we can focus a percentage of our synchronous learning time as a way to make one-on-one connections with students and establish common ground. When we're establishing common ground, that means we're getting to know our students and we're finding things that we might have in common. Maybe it's taste in music or favorite food or cultural background or anything, really. That common ground is really important as we begin to develop that relationship with students and also maintain it throughout the course of the year. So how do we do this logistically? Many of us are required to spend a portion of our academic day in a synchronous learning setting. We might consider using something like a Google Meet breakout room as a way to pull students maybe one by one or in a small group of 2 or 3 students and really engage in conversation, right? Maybe not necessarily academic conversation, but conversation around relationships and using that time to establish common ground with students. We could also integrate this by using sort of a morning meeting or a check in routine. This can look a lot of different ways depending on your teaching style. Um, However, I have found that one thing that is paramount for me is if I'm integrating something new into my teaching practice, I need to prioritize it by scheduling it, right? I need to write it into my lesson plans. So maybe if you're considering ways to incorporate relationship building activities, meaningful one-on-one conversations with students, I would recommend really just intentionally setting aside a part of your synchronous learning time to make sure that that makes it into the schedule, right? So here we have a list of various ways to begin making those one-on-one connections with students. I won't go over all of these with you, but this might be a place where you might want to pause the slide and see if any of these activities speak to you, and think about ways that you can start to intentionally integrate them into your synchronous learning time with students one-on-one or with small groups of students. And finally, I want to direct you to some more resources that are available to you via the Behavior Support Specialist team. Of course, you can always reach out to us at via email at bss.aps.edu. But you can also explore some of the resources that we've created for you using the TLN Hub or the Teacher Learning Network Hub. And I want to walk you through that now. You can find the link here in this presentation, and I'll show you how to use that link and really get some more relationship building activities for your classroom. So now that we're here on the TLN Hub website, we're going to go to distance learning. We'll scroll down just a little bit, and you'll find this list of content learning modules. We'll come down to the 6 through 12 SEL modules, or social emotional learning modules. And here you'll find a variety of folders that focus on the 5 social emotional competencies, one of which is relationship skills. So I encourage you to take some time, follow those links, and look at some of the great stuff that our team has already created that might help you in those next steps toward developing authentic and trusting relationships in your virtual classroom. Thank you so much.